rehab stay, but that'd be very, like just demoralizing, or just, I'd feel so defeated.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff we're doing. And there's a few organizations that have reached out, and one wanted to partner with us, and we'll talk about that more in the future too. And I'm very excited about that. And we are people who drive for 217 Recovery. We are recovery coaches. Mm-hmm. So it's not just like, hey, we're picking a dude up and dropping him off. No, there's some good conversations being had, and it's not like we're telling them what to do. It's just, for me personally, I just feel them out, see how they're doing, be genuinely interested in that person, and find out what's going on in their life. And that helps me. Yeah. And it keeps me grounded to realize that.
Well, I mean, I can just say, even from the feedback that I've gotten from people that have ridden with you, actually, from them saying that, the experience was extremely helpful, because, you are motivational, and, you do care, and that stuff shines through, and that's the kind I'm not saying you have all the right words to say or anything like that. I don't even know if there are right words to say when, people are going to or coming back from, but definitely I think it's helpful to have somebody who knows what's going on, knows what they're getting into, and, kind of put their mind at ease a little bit.
What did that one lady say? I don't want to say her name, but
she said I gave her advice. Love for you.
Yeah, what was the advice that she said I gave her?
Oh, can I say it on here?
Well, no, but you can.
Yeah, he told me just F everybody. That's what she told me, and she said, in between God and him, that's what I'm just been listening. So I'm like, okay.
And see, I remember that
was working.
I remember that conversation very differently, but yeah, no, and it was those. I remember sort of it, because there were some people in her life that were, giving her hell, and those people aren't going to be in her life when she's clean and sober and in recovery anyway. So,
yeah,
who cares what those people say? Who cares what those people think?
Yeah,
F those people.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah.
So.
Well, she's clean and sober today, so I know that to be true.
Hey, go run in the woods and find a man and a woman and F them.
No,
it wasn't like that.
I wasn't. I know that. But no, she's doing great. So. So what about you? You're coming up on a big celebration soon.
Yeah, 2 years is coming up. A little over 2 months.
How'd you do it?
Well, I drove drunk and don't remember it, and told the cop he cannot take me to jail. That's how I did it. Sort of got on probation for a year. People ask me that. Like, one guy was like, "Man, I'm gonna do what you're doing." I was like, "You do, huh? You want to get drunk and hit a dumpster? At least you think it was a dumpster."
Well, let's pick up and focus on after the probation for a year.
Yeah.
Start from there.
Well, no, I mean, actually, the probation for a year was something that, and my mom and I just talked about that yesterday, and it was the accountability that I needed and the consequences that I needed. Before that, it was always, all right, let's go back to rehab, or, then sometimes I wouldn't want to go back to rehab, or, I don't know, it was just like, oh, whoop-de-doo, going back to rehab, or, ooh, my lights got cut off, whoop-de-doo, like it was just minor things where, I mean, jail wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It wasn't like fun, but it wasn't like scary, or, I don't know. It could have been, I guess, but like, I don't know. I prefer not to be there. And I didn't think I was a bad person. And to me, it was an act of God. Just the whole point of me driving, it made no sense. Like, I had a half gallon at home. I didn't smoke, so I didn't need cigarettes. I was in my pajama pants. I didn't have my ID. Didn't have my phone. Like, I didn't have any. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, and the fact that I didn't kill anybody, it's just a miracle. And I don't remember. I remember just kind of like in my car, and this dude standing outside it saying, "What are you doing? You almost killed somebody." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I wasn't driving. He's like, "Yeah, you were." And I was like, I'm like, what the hell am I doing in my car? Like, what the hell's going on? And I didn't realize it till after I got out of jail that, I did hit something. Like the whole time I'm in jail, I'm like, man, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like I'm going to beat this case. And then I think I was on the phone with my mom from the jail finally when she answered, and like a week later, and she's like, yeah, you hit something. I'm like, what? I'm like, shut up. Don't talk about that's on these phones. Don't talk about that. Because when you're in jail, they record that stuff. But I was like, I got home and I looked at it, I was like, holy hell, man. Like, the whole light was busted, and I don't know. It was an act of God. I think God knew, like, this is what you need and this is the time. But yeah, so probation for a year. I went, like I said, to treatment. It's supposed to be there for 90 days, there for 60. And when I got out from that, another act of God, the therapist at the time was like, you're not taking this serious, you're having fun. And I'm like, you don't even listen to me. Like, how do you know what I'm talking to everybody? I'm talking to everybody but you, because I don't think you listen to me. And one time I was telling her a story about my dad, and as many people do, if you've listened to the podcast, there's some issues there. And I was opening that up to her, and after about 10 minutes of just, blah, 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 and then she stops looking at her computer and goes, oh, I'm sorry. Can you say that stuff again? And I was like, okay, I'm done with that. No thanks. So after that, I never even cared about her. And I would have fun in groups. I would have fun there because I wanted to have fun in recovery. I didn't want to be like some of these guys that are in there and, oh man, I didn't want it to be that way, and life is what you make it. And I just have fun in there. So she didn't understand. She didn't put two and two together. My therapist in Benton Harbor told her, if Corey starts trying to be funny and cute with you, get to the bottom of it because he's hiding something. Mm-hmm. He meant if you ask Corey a question directly in a session and he's skirting around it and trying to be cute and funny, get to the bottom of it. He didn't mean, hey, if Corey's having a good time in life, oh, he's not taking it serious. Mm-hmm. It's not. And she just over her head, and that's the thing about therapists too. You got to find one that you really like and you trust. And I had one in Benton Harbor that I did, and I have one now that I do. So, that it works out. But so she sent me home early, and I was kind of nervous. I called the probation officer, and it was like, hey, I'm going home, probably tomorrow. Or she's like, I thought you were supposed to do 90 days. Well, see, I'm doing really good. So, they're going to let me go early. She's like, okay, whatever, just be here tomorrow. Okay, perfect. So I went back in. She's like, now, if you just promise to behave, I'll let you stay another 30. And I was like, nah, I'm ready to go. Because, I had been planning all this stuff and, starting the business. And I was ready. I was ready to go. And then when I got out, and like I said, I went back home for a couple of days. And on my way back, I saw my grandfather who was in the hospital and he was not doing well. Mm-hmm. They'd stopped feeding him and stuff through the tubes. And when I saw him, he looked like he just came out of was in a concentration camp. Like it was bad. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to see him again either. I mean, this is all kind of a crazy God story, really. But I got a new phone before I came up, and I had to drive from Coloma, Michigan to Kalamazoo to get the phone. I was on my mama's account, and the phone was messed up. The speaker was. Mm-hmm. So I had to go back the next day, which was the day I was heading back up to Boyne City. And so I'm like, Mom, I need your ID. I need to go. They won't let me do anything in your account unless I have your ID. So I took the ID, went to Kalamazoo. She went to go see my grandfather. And my stepdad was fixing my car. So by the time I got back from Kalamazoo, my car was fixed. They were at the hospital. My mom was like, you should come see Grandpa one more time. I'm like, nope, I'm going. I got to get out of here. I got to go straight there. And so I get in my car and I go to South Haven where he was at in the hospital. And I get out, I get gas. And I go reach in my pocket, and I still have my mom's ID. And I was like, damn it, I'll just mail it to her. And I'm like, no, Corey, she's 3 miles down the road, so take it to her. So I did, and I went in, and I saw my grandfather. And I looked him in his eyes, and he couldn't talk, but I think he understood what I was saying. I told him I loved him, and I told him that I got my 90-day coin or whatever that day. And I was proud of that. And so I get in the car, maybe about an hour and a half north of South Haven. so past Grand Rapids, and then my mom sends me a text and said that he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I don't know, like all of that, from me getting out 30 days earlier to me not leaving my mom's license at her house and having it in my pocket. I mean, I was able to see him one last time, and I'm so glad I did, because that's something that I know I would have regretted, if I would have just been like, man, you could have seen him one more time, and instead you just, it's all about Corey. You just took off.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather was a very hard-working man, and he worked at Whirlpool for a bit, and actually retired from there, and then became all kind. He was always working, but he was part of the union but he would help out when people would have substance use problems,
Mm-hmm.
and when I talked to him, probably. Well, now it'd probably be like 4 years ago. He understood. Like, he wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't use drugs, but he had been around people enough, and his father was a bad alcoholic, my great-grandfather. So then he'd seen it, and he'd been around it, and he knew, it wasn't just Corey doesn't have the willpower. It was like, hey, this has got a hold of him, like.
Did he talk to you about it?
He did. And, he was kind and wise with his words, and, he wasn't judging me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my biological father, his thing is, well, then, by God, I'm not going to have you in my house, get out, you drunk. And the thing is, my dad's father was an alcoholic too, and, my dad's mother was, so, like, you think he'd have a little bit more compassion with it, but I don't know. Sometimes if your IQ level is so low, it just doesn't matter. I mean, you just can't comprehend stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's real life right there. But yeah, so staying sober, back to your question. Yeah, starting the company though was something that really pushed me into that next level, and I know I needed to do that. I wanted to be a drug counselor, and they'll say, oh, everybody wants to be a drug counselor when they're in treatment because you feel good, and you're just like, hey, I want to tell everybody, and you want to help everybody, and you do. Then there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be a drug counselor, if you want, whatever you want to do, if you want to be a recovery coach, hey, man, do it. But I realized I didn't want to be a drug counselor. I did, but I didn't. I wanted to help people, but I didn't want to do that. And at first I thought you had to go to school for it. I thought you had to go to college, and I was taking classes, which I really like psychology and stuff like that, but you don't have to go to college to do that kind of thing. And I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to make recovery part of my life. When I was thinking about it, and the guy at Riverwood, his name's Ray, I don't know if he's still there, but he was the recovery coach there, and he asked me, he's like, Corey, what's it going to take for you to stop drinking? And I was about to throw out, oh, well, once I have kids. And he's like, no, don't even answer that right now. Think about it. You got a 12, 13-hour bus ride, up north to the treatment center. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just what's it going to take, for you to stop drinking, for you not to drink again. And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about what Pana had said about how, like, I had a bottle, and I would put, like, a protective shield around it, like nothing. It was never the bottle's fault. It was always, oh, it's my sister's fault, my mom's fault, girlfriend's fault, whatever, Nico's fault. It was never my baby girl, Nico's fault. But he was right. And I thought, okay, well, what do I put above drinking? And there was a time when I was working in Benton Harbor, and I was driving home, and I heard a commercial that I had done, and I was really drunk. And it was obvious, hearing the commercial, that I was plastered. And I used to think, oh, I'd have a couple of beers on the air, and I was funnier. I was a pretty shy guy, so it like loosened me up enough to like kind of have this, hey,
You're a shy guy.
Yeah, and so I am. So it like, I mean, you get over it after a while, but like especially being 18 or whatever, like being on the radio, it was like So the beer would calm me down, and hey, man, people tell me I had a good show. Oh yeah, it's because I was drinking. I was relaxed and. So that became part of my thing. And then, I heard that commercial, and I was like, oh, my God. Went back to the station, and I redid it because it was so bad. Like, I was so ashamed Like, oh my God, I hope nobody else in the whole